Last part of Serafina and Arcadio's story. A love born in the shadow of war. It was the year 1941, a dark chapter when Japan occupied the Philippines. Though the occupation lasted only 3 years, its echoes resonated deeply, leaving scars that lingered for generations. Filipino women bore the weight of the horrors inflicted upon the nation, carrying burdens of loss and memories too painful to recount. At the time, my grandmother was 31 years old, living with her sister and her sister's family. She was a strong, resolute woman, the kind who met challenges head-on. But even strength can waver when danger lurks at every turn. According to my grandmother, Japanese soldiers had taken over the entire region, casting an oppressive shadow over the lives of everyone. These soldiers were notorious for their brutality, torturing prisoners in unimaginable ways and committing unspeakable crimes against women, especially young virgins. As a single and unwed woman, my grandmother lived each day in paralyzing fear, always vigilant against the horrors that could befall her. Her desperation led her to devise a plan as clever as it was unconventional. She pretended to nurse her niece outdoors, in full view of soldiers, hoping it would convince them that she was no longer a virgin. The sight was peculiar, and though it brought her a fleeting sense of safety, she was left exhausted, scared, and yearning only for freedom. Every day felt like a battle between survival and despair. It was in this bleak period that salvation came in the form of her cousin, Pining. Pining was a vivacious woman with an aura of charm that seemed to enchant everyone she met. On one seemingly ordinary day, she arrived like a spark of light, her cheerful demeanor a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere. With a wide smile and a mischievous twinkle in her eye, she declared, "There's a man who likes you and really wants to meet you, but we'll have to go to a neighboring village where a wedding is happening to see him." The words struck my grandmother like an unexpected bolt of hope, an escape from the suffocating fear and hardship that had defined her existence for far too long. My grandmother, ordinarily cautious and deliberate in her decisions, surprised herself that day. Without asking who or why, she answered with a simple, resolute yes. For the first time in years, she saw an opportunity, a chance to break free from the looming shadow of oppression. She didn't know then that Pining's plan held a far greater surprise than she could have imagined. Unbeknownst to her, Pining hadn't just arranged a meeting. She had orchestrated a wedding. My grandmother had no idea that the ceremony she was invited to would mark the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one she hadn't even considered. Nor did she realize that the man Pining had spoken of was no stranger. It was the same man she had encountered years ago at the market. She recalled the memory vividly, as if etched into her soul. He had ridden into the bustling marketplace on a magnificent horse, his presence commanding attention. He carried himself with an effortless grace and strength that made everyone stop and stare. For her, it was his eyes that left the deepest impression. His intense, unwavering gaze made her cheeks flush and her heart race. Embarrassed by the attention, she had quickly turned away, her youthful shyness hiding the interest she wouldn't admit even to herself. When he pursued her after that encounter, my grandmother dismissed him. She had been too young she said, and marriage wasn't on her radar. Her focus was elsewhere, on navigating the challenges of life and safeguarding her independence. Yet, even then, the seeds of connection were planted, waiting for the right moment to bloom. That moment arrived unexpectedly in the neighboring village. The week following Peening's visit, my grandmother discovered the truth, that she wasn't just there to meet him, but to marry him. The man, still deeply in love with her after all these years, had planned everything with Peening's help. The ceremony itself was simple yet profound, filled with laughter, tears, and an undeniable sense of hope. As my grandmother stood at the altar, the weight of the past began to lift. The sight of friends and family gathered, their faces filled with joy, reminded her that love could flourish even in the darkest of times. She thought back to the harrowing months she had endured, the fear and desperation, and felt a quiet triumph in the journey that had brought her here. When the man, her husband-to-be, took her hand and looked at her, his eyes held the same intensity she remembered from the marketplace. "I've waited so long for this moment," he said softly. "I hope you're not angry with me. I wanted to show you how much I care." In his voice, she heard sincerity, patience, and love. In that instant, everything felt right. Life, she realized, could be unpredictable and chaotic, but sometimes it was in those moments of disorder that its greatest treasures were found. Grandma ended her story with a laugh, her eyes sparkling as they always did when she spoke of the man who had waited so long to call her his wife. "Sometimes," she said, "you need a little chaos to find what life truly means."